All right, hi friend. I know that a lot of people, not just this time of year, but literally any time of year, people ask me or they are thinking through reading, getting back into reading. They see the benefits of it, they've heard of the benefits, and they just want to either get back into reading or start reading and become a reader for the first time. So I share with them a couple of tips, and I figured I would share some of those tips with you all, specifically with you watching this video right now. And I want to share some tips, but also have it be like a story time a little bit, kind of how to get back into reading if you've never been a reader or if you want to get back into it like I did. So first things first, I say get a library card. When I was first getting back into reading, or was possibly going to get back into reading, one thing I did was I reread my favorite book. And so, or one of my favorite books, which was Avalon High by Meg Cabot. That's just one book that I knew that I was going to enjoy because I read it, literally this is my third time rereading it. And I wanted to kind of get back into the habit of reading again. I also had just finished reading The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. I had gotten this, I believe, at a bookstore years and years ago. And I literally took me a whole year to actually finish the book, but I finished it and I really enjoyed it. So I kind of knew that I liked some type of fantastical books. I like fantasy, but very low fantasy, not epic or anything like that, because that's how the Meg Cabot book was. And then I also love history so much. And I particularly love the narrative nonfiction style of Warmth of Other Suns. So I knew that's kind of where I wanted to start. And so after I got my library card, I sent an email to the librarian, and they have this Ask a Librarian feature on the website. So I submitted an email and I pretty much said, hey, I'm reading some fantasy and watching a lot of fantasy. Do you have any recommendations for fantastical books? And also I really am interested in history, and I just read this book, The Warmth of Other Suns. So if you have any recommendations for a book that is similar to that. And I got great recommendations, and that kind of helped me to establish some type of rhythm or foundation for where to start from. Because if I really liked these books, then I'll be able to find other books that were either similar to them or expounded on some of the themes that they talked about. So I would just say librarians are a great resource. It's good to browse through the library every now and then to see if any of the synopses are interesting to you. Next, for me personally, I prefer to read books that don't have a lot of spice in them, little to none. Honestly, if I come across a book that has little to no spice, I'm instantly very intrigued by it. And for me, there could be other things that I personally wouldn't want to read in a book. So two things that really help me to find more books that I like and probably would help you as you're just kind of getting back into the groove of reading or starting to read would be content warning websites or even spice rating websites. So one example is romance.io. That is a website that kind of goes through the spice ratings for multiple different romance books, almost like indie books, traditionally published, whatever you want to look for. They have thousands upon thousands of books, and you can look them up to see if they have a certain spice ratings, and they're rated, I believe, from 1 or 0 to 5. And they explain which of the, flames, what they mean, how many spicier scenes are in the book, if there are any, what's the level of, spice that's in it, if it's maybe just kissing, how much kissing, that type of thing. It outlines it on the website, which is really helpful. Common Sense Media and then Trigger Warning Database, I believe those two websites are really helpful as well to find reviews by people, to break down what is in the book and specifically what kinds of scenes are in there. So if there are any things that in particular that you don't want to read about that might be triggering for you or just make you feel uncomfortable, you can go on that website or those websites and deduce on which one would work best for you. My next stop when it came to figuring out what books that I would want to read would be reading reviews on Goodreads or Storygraph later on. I started off with Goodreads because obviously that's the most popular book website. Obviously they have a whole Goodreads Choice Awards that people are really interested in, and I feel like primarily the casual reader as well as the voracious reader knows what Goodreads is. I would go on Goodreads and check out they're popular in a specific genre. So that's a good way to figure out if there are any books that are interesting to you. And also it's a great resource to find if your previous authors that you've enjoyed in the past, or even a author that you have heard about before from someone, maybe a family member or something like that. You can go and check to see if they have any new books coming out, or even a list of the books on their backlist. I personally use Storygraph to track my reading and also to give me some recommendations every now and again. I feel like it's a lot better website personally than Goodreads, and it's more updated regularly. But Goodreads seems to be the primary database when it comes to finding out about new releases, and also it's the largest one, so it has a variety of different reviews on there. The reviews can be really helpful, and they list sometimes, what books, or sorry, they list what content might be in the book. A lot of them are spoiler free as well. So if you want to get a gist of what is in the book without getting major spoilers, which I mean sometimes it can be hard to do, that is actually a really good resource to utilize. Next is this platform. Okay, not mine specifically, but Bookstagram and BookTube are great places to go if you're looking for recommendations on a certain kind of book. I highly recommend finding, one or two, booktubers, which obviously if you're watching this, you probably already watch BookTube pretty regularly, but finding at least one or two people to follow and to get a grasp on the books that they like, the books that they don't like as well. I think it's important to know not just what people do not like in books, but also what they do like. And it has nothing to do maybe with content, as far as like content warnings and whatnot, but it could be more so like what themes they gravitate towards, what kind of character development are they looking for, what are the main things that they like. Like you might watch a YouTuber that talks primarily about romance or historical fiction or literary fiction, and they might, appreciate deeper talks about sisterly relationships, or they might appreciate in a fantasy book or something like that where there is a familiar or an animal, a familiar that's in the book or something like that. So there's people that have certain things that they gravitate towards and some things that they really don't like. And so watching a BookTube video, or even like going on Bookstagram and reviewing, looking at people's review on there, they have a lot of recommendations, videos and recommendation reels and posts that are put out into the internet. At first can be a little bit overwhelming, and I actually have some tips on how to decipher what you like from that, but I'll get to that in a second. I think that you should really go ahead and kind of find, like I said, just one or two people to follow, and then from there you'll be able to deduce, who has a similar taste as you read some of the books that they're recommending. Booksellers. Okay, booksellers I feel like in libraries are so underrated. Like when you go to the bookstore, a lot of times, you just kind of go off of, you could heavily depend on Bookstagram and Book Talk or even BookTube to determine what books that you get. But I highly recommend talking with your booksellers and talking with your librarians. Like go to the bookstore, and they're there not just to, check you out, like check out your books or whatever after you're ready to buy something, but they're also there to help navigate you or help you to navigate what book that you want to get. They have tons of books that they could recommend to you based off of what book you've enjoyed or did not enjoy in the past. So if you have read maybe one or two books at this point and you want to get another one, but you want to buy them in store, I highly recommend reaching out to your bookseller and see even sometimes in certain bookstores, they have different tags on books as well, like a bookseller's favorite and like why they decide to recommend that book. I know one of my local used bookstores does that, and I think Barnes & Noble has started to do that, and another few indie bookstores have done that as well. So definitely lean into the expertise that these booksellers have. They don't just sell the books, but they also have insight on what themes are in most books that they have on the shelves. So now that we got into some of the tips for how to get back into reading or get into reading in the first place, I want to talk about how to find specifically books that you really love. I spoke to some of those tips in the earlier part of the video, but I definitely wanted to double down on some things that I said and give more examples so that it would help you to find more books that you actually enjoy. Now, this is a kind of controversial tip, but I highly suggest DNFing more. I highly suggest, and DNFing means specifically to did not finish or do not finish. So when you're reading a book and you are noticing certain things that you are not caring for, it's really boring, it has a lot of references to, say, if you don't like reading books with adultery in it, there's like a heavy adultery focus in the book and you didn't know that before going into it. Or there's just like, like for me, a lot of spice and it just doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It doesn't really seem like it has anything to do with the plot at all. DNF that book, girl. DNF that book, okay? It's not worth it to spend time drudging your way and pushing yourself and forcing you to read a book. This is a hobby. This is for fun. For most of us, we're doing this on our free time, which we don't have much of anyway. So why would I spend additional time just reading a book I don't like? No. Just DNF the book. But actually part of it doesn't have to be just a DNF and you learn nothing from that. You know, there's lessons in everything I feel like that we do. So if you take note of why you did not like certain things in that book, then that can help you to figure out why this author didn't work for you, why this book specifically didn't work for you. And it'll help you to know going forward for other books in the future what you want to stay away from. On the more positive side of that, go ahead and note what things you enjoyed from some books that you've read in the past. Even if it's books that you haven't read in maybe 4 or 5 years, you still remember certain things like old childhood favorites, as well as some, new books that you've consumed or enjoyed or engaged with in the last couple of weeks or months or even a year or so. Then I would say take note of the books that you've rated 4 stars and up, like specifically the books that you really enjoyed or really loved or are obsessed with. Like if there are certain themes that you really appreciate, you enjoy in a book, it'll help you to find other books that have similar themes. For example, for me, I love historical fiction. Obviously, that's no surprise to you, but also specifically, I like multi-generational family sagas. I like seeing how each generation interacts with the other and how certain things that they experienced in the past kind of influences how they're raising the next generation and how that ultimately influences the generation that follows it. So that I really love and really appreciate in many or most books that I read. Another thing that I really love in any book, whether it be a romance or historical fiction, any type of genre, is I really appreciate well-developed characters that are very complex, that have a lot of things that are going on in them personally that are influencing the way they're reacting to life. That is not simply of actions happening outside in a vacuum, but the things that are occurring in their lives, how they're affecting them emotionally. And then ultimately when I see growth that takes place throughout the character and in their character arc. I even like to see that in, it's a slight aside, but in memoirs, like I think a good memoir is one where someone starts at a certain point and they actually learn things as they go and they reflect. Like there are certain memoirs that I've read and I DNF them because I really didn't see any growth in the person. They just said, this is my life, this is what I did, and they just didn't mature or grow. And these are people that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s. And so I'm like, I don't want to read a book like that. I'm not going to take away anything valuable from that. So that's, a pet peeve of mine when people aren't growing and maturing, but also something that for me is a preference that I prefer in my memoirs. Another tip that I have is to check out the acknowledgements or the blurbs on some of your favorite books. I feel like acknowledgements specifically kind of gets thrown away and not acknowledged much, but I love a good author's note and I love reading the acknowledgements. I specifically go and hunt in the acknowledgements to see, not just in any other book, in your favorite book specifically, like books that you've read recently that you really enjoyed. I highly recommend going to the acknowledgements because many times people that write in a specific genre, they have friends that write in that genre as well. So it gives you insight into, the friends of your favorite authors and people that have supported them in writing their books, especially blurbs. A lot of people they do blurb from being sent books, but a lot of people blurb from for their friends. So keeping an eye out on books that are blurbed by their favorite authors. For example, one of my favorite authors, if you have not noticed, is Tayari Jones. And I was looking for books that were blurbed by her because I felt like that would be great to understand or get more exposed to other authors that might not be highlighted as much as other ones. So I looked and I saw that this specific one, Above the Salt by Catherine Vaz, that it was blurbed by her. And it says, Vaz's work is gorgeous at every level, singing sentences, and a pull you in plot. She is the real thing, an American treasure. And so when I read this, I was like, when I saw that she had said that, I said, oh, I'm picking this book up, like automatically gonna pick this up. Another person that has been, that Tayari Jones has blurbed recently, or not recently, but has, I believe, always blurbed. I don't know if she's gonna be in this one as well. Oh, but this is blurbed by somebody else. So this is a good example. So this book, Take My Hand by Delene Perkins Valdez. This actually was blurbed by quite a few authors, some of them that I've read and I've enjoyed their work before. So for example, this is blurbed by Victoria Christopher Murray, and she co-wrote The Personal Librarian, and I really loved that book, really enjoyed it. So she blurbed that one. But yeah, that's an example of like someone I've read their work before and they blurbed this book, so it gives me more insight that I'm probably gonna like this author. There's another example that I have. Yeah, Wench. So this is another book that I'm currently reading, enjoying, but man, this is painful to read because of it's, a slave narrative. But anyways, this was actually blurbed by T.R. Jones as well. And actually right before I started reading this, I saw that she blurbed this and I got really excited because I knew, I'm like, well, if she blurbed this and specifically mentioned this book, because sometimes people blurb and they just say like, oh, this person's work is so great and that's it, or just a word like exquisite. Lame. But if you get a really good blurb where they describe the book and are kind of more specific on what they really enjoyed about the book, that's a really good sign that these authors actually know each other pretty well, at least know each other's work pretty well, and it kind of gives you a glowing recommendation to pick up that person's work. So far, Tiari's not steering me wrong because I am enjoying this book. All right, last but not least, this is, I'm gonna hold your hand when I tell you this. All right, come in a little closer. Stop reading the books that are overly hyped, or stop reading books just based off of hype. Like, you might see a book that's everywhere, literally everywhere. You can't avoid it. It's on Bookstagram, it's on BookTube, it's on Book Talk. It's taking over. Everyone's crying and, throwing up, kicking their feet, reading this book, right? But you, looking at the book, you really don't want to read it. Like, you don't have any interest in it. It's just that everyone's talking about it, so you just feel like you have to. Do not buy into that. Don't buy into the hype. Again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, you need to find at least one or two, creators that are providing you really good, solid recommendations, where you've read maybe 2 or 3 books that they recommended and you had either similar feelings, or at least there were books that you weren't hearing often or you actually really enjoyed. Go off of that. Like, if that person's actually telling you that book is good, then pick it up. But if don't just go off of what everyone else, because everyone has different tastes and preferences, and you don't want to get caught up in reading a book or even buying a book, buying a book that you're not even interested in. It has nothing, it doesn't line up with any of the things and the themes that you actually look for in a book. You're gonna get led astray and frustrated, and you're gonna end up DNFing a book that you paid good money for. And even if you didn't pay money for it, getting it from the library, you could be wasting time on a book that you're not interested in at all. So instead of just going and following the hype, I recommend talking with your friends and your family. I'm sure you know at least one person that reads. I say go talk with them. Speak with them about your desire to read, more books or read more in the upcoming year. And ask them if they have any recommendations. These are your friends and family that know you fairly well. And if you have them, or even like I said, your booksellers or your librarians, ask them for some recommendations. And even ask them specifically based off of what I like to do is I like giving recommendations based off of what people like to watch. If they don't read, I go off of what they enjoy watching. So say, for example, someone loves 24. They love 24, they love action, they love all those types of things. Usually I would try to give them books that are either similar in theme or with a lot of action, with some type of cat and mouse heist, those types of things. If they like those kind of movies, I recommend those kind of books. If people like, deep dramas and that type of thing, family dramas, like a This Is Us or something like that, then I would recommend more literary fiction, family drama, those kind of books. So that's kind of what I go off of. And sometimes if you have friends that are readers, or even booksellers or librarians that give them like a list of, hey, these are the 3, that's what I did initially. These are like the 2 or 3 shows that I've been enjoying or movies that I've watched. Do you have any recommendations based off of those movies or TV shows that I've watched? That's a great way to start if you're looking for more books that you're actually going to enjoy. So that was all. Those are all my tips. I hope that was really helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below if you have any additional tips that you would like to share with anyone. I think we're a community here, so I want to make sure that everybody gets as many tips as possible to help not just get them back into reading, but also to help them stay reading. I think that every now and again, it is fine to take a break from your hobbies, such as reading or watch TV or anything like that. But if you really are interested in reading, I think it's worth it to invest some time into learning more about your reading taste and getting help from others around you. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. And if you like videos like this, if you watch any of my other videos and you enjoyed those as well, go ahead and subscribe and join the fam, because we have more videos coming and I want you to be able to partake in them, enjoy them. And comment below if you have any other recommendations for me. I like taking recommendations from you, and I'm actually taking quite a few going into 2026. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.